Hi, I'm Marnie Pearson. Do people often tell you that, hey, you should write a book? Like when you share your life story and the situations in your life, do people suggest that you write a book? Or maybe you've just thought that you'd like to write a book out of your life. I know I'm feeling that way now that I could write a novel out of what's going on in my life. Sometimes we want to do that, but then we think of the other people that are involved in the story. Maybe we've got some messy parts that they're critical to the story, and maybe we just don't want to reveal that much about ourselves, or maybe it's going to expose um, a previous spouse or an existing spouse or um, children. You don't want your children to hear the whole story or whatever. There's lots of people. That's a very common question I get. How much vulnerability is too much vulnerability? And there are certain things that you want to respect the privacy of other people when they're involved in your story. So I was going to give you a few ideas for how to handle this. The first would be to just write it as a novel. If you write it as a novel, people expect that you took some creative license. You don't even have to tell them that it's your story. I do have a good friend who wrote her life story, and you're able to embellish it a little bit. You're able to move things around to make it flow better. And when you do it as a novel, that's a good way to protect everybody involved, because nobody can say, well, what was creative license? What was real? You were trying to make the story work or whatever. So that's a really safe way to write your story as a novel. The other way that you could do it is a self-help type book, and you could teach principles, or maybe start with your story in the chapter. Each chapter would start with the story, then you would teach your principles and maybe give the people some takeaways. And then with that one, you could always take your story and make it be like Jane's story, or this story is Lynn and John had this situation, and so you could really take your own stories and put other people's names on them, and you could include other people's stories, change their names up, or just you could make up scenarios or whatever, aggregate scenarios. If you're like a coach or a consultant, you could aggregate the type of issues that come up for your clients without being specific to any one client, change up where they live or their names or their gender or whatever. So, and then you just put a statement at the beginning, the names of people have been changed to protect the innocent or whatever like that. So that way you can share a lot of your stories and the things that you've been through without exposing anybody else or anybody realizing it's your story. It could be other people's story.